Joining us at the Asian Financial Forum is Dr. Ben Bernanke. He's the former chairman of the United States Federal Reserve System. Thanks very much indeed for doing so. You're also, of course, an iconic central banker, particularly after the crisis of 2008. But can I start by really asking you about 2016 and what you see ahead, given the volatility in the markets, the lower oil price, the worries that people have about 2016?
Well, there's some uncertainty now, that's for sure. Global economy is awfully hard to predict. From the U.S. perspective, what we have is a fairly solid but moderate recovery in the U.S., powered by households and construction, residential building and the like. But the rest of the world is somewhat slower. You know, in the major industrial economies, Europe and Japan are growing, but very slowly. And in the emerging world, related to the slowdown in China, we see some pressure on some of those countries.
Ben, if you begin to see really quite a large rise in inflation in the world, I mean, would you see, and particularly in the United States, would you then see interest rates beginning to rise quite quickly after that?
Well, first, that seems to be quite unlikely. Inflation is very low, and with the low oil prices and a strong dollar, particularly in the U.S., it looks like it'll be low for a while. In the event that inflation started to rise, then yes, the Fed would probably have to raise rates more quickly because it's got an inflation target of 2%. But in those circumstances, it would probably be the case that the U.S. economy was also growing pretty strongly. And so the effects of higher rates and the stronger dollar would be offset to some extent by a stronger U.S. economy.
I believe you think that managing currencies is a bit like playing a piano with a sledgehammer. Is that the way you look at it?
Well,
why is that?
No, I was talking about using monetary policy to try to fine-tune the financial markets. You know, when there's developments in the stock market or in banking that are problematic, then you know, we shouldn't ignore that. We need to address those issues. But using monetary policy to try and address financial stability issues can be very, very difficult. And the reason it's like a sledgehammer playing a piano is that when you use monetary policy, you're not just targeting a specific sector, specific market, you're hitting the whole economy. And if you drive the economy away from full employment in order to tackle one market that's a problem, it's really counterproductive.
I suppose some people might say this is possibly the way the Chinese government is looking at its own economy. It's rebalancing. This is a government policy. It's not the markets running it. So what would your advice be to the Chinese government into the next year, 2 years?
Well, they're doing what they have to do, what American policymakers have encouraged them to do. First, they're rebalancing away from an export-led economy to one that's led by consumers, and consumer spending is growing pretty quickly. So they don't have to rely on exports for their growth. And secondly, they're shifting the composition of output away from heavy industry, construction, infrastructure, towards more services-oriented types of activities. Those are both necessary transitions they have to make if they want to continue to grow. Now, those are complicated transitions to make, and they inevitably involve more use of the market and less central control. But again, they need to do that if they want to keep growing.
This is perhaps moving a little bit away from the central banker's primary concerns, but one of the big things that were being talked about here at the Asian Financial Forum is the Belt and Road Initiative, which is being produced by the Chinese government. Do you see that as an important new item for the economy of the world?
Yeah, well, potentially. I'm certainly in favor of efforts to improve infrastructure, to increase trade, to increase economic integration, and that's the goal of this, so I think that's good. The effects will be depending on the implementation, how efficient it is. Will the economic decisions be good? Will the diplomatic support be there?
Will Hong Kong be a super connector, as many people say, rather because of its central place as a finance center and so forth?
One would think so. I mean, Hong Kong has played a special role as the economic link from the mainland to the rest of the world for a long time. It's got a heavy concentration of finance and other types of expertise, which is relevant. So I would imagine that Hong Kong will play an important role. And to the extent that this is a successful initiative, increases trade and integration, Hong Kong will obviously be the beneficiary of that.
Now, attending the Asian Financial Forum and being a guest here at the forum, what's been your impression of it in this year, 2016?
Well, I've been here today. I think it shows a lot of energy. I mean, that's what the impression you get about Hong Kong in general. Very high level of energy, and you're seeing that here among the participants and speakers. So, it's a pleasure for me to be here. I've enjoyed it, and certainly this is one of the areas of the world where the most interesting things, economically speaking, are going on for sure.
Ben Bernanke, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.